my channel. In today's video I am going to try to be really short, really quick, and show you how I trim my hair in long layers as I'm growing out my hair. So if you want to see how I do it really easily, then keep on watching. So the first thing I want to say is that I always do this right before I'm about to hop in the shower, just because it makes it easier to clean up afterwards any stray hairs that might be lingering on my person. So that's why I'm looking a little disheveled. I just finished working out. I thought this would be the great time to trim my hair, and I wanted to film it for you guys. The other thing I want to say, just as kind of a disclaimer, is that I am not a professional hairstylist. I'm just DIYing this at home. I have found through trial and error over many years what works really well for me. So just a little disclaimer. The other thing I want to say, I've made hair cutting videos in the past, and something that's important to remember is that a cut is just a cut. If you want it to look like my hair or like something you've seen online, like on Pinterest, you will need to style it that way. You can only achieve so much with a cut. So just those two little disclaimers, and let's jump into it. Okay, so I always like to trim my hair when it's loosely styled as I normally wear it, which is kind of like this. Obviously it's very messy right now because I just got finished working out, but I always kind of wear it in loose curls or loose waves, so that's how I like to trim it. I would recommend trimming it how you normally wear it. So that being said, I am going to give it a quick brush through, and I'm going to use this boar bristle brush. It's just my favorite thing to use, and I'm going to just really thoroughly brush through all of my hair from the roots to the tips. Okay, so now that my hair is fully brushed through, there's no knots or anything like that. I can kind of run my fingers through it without hitting any snags. These are the only two tools that you'll need aside from a brush to brush through your hair. So the first thing is a comb. I opt for a good quality comb. This one is from Sally's Beauty. I like one that has both a wide tooth and a tight tooth all on the same comb. I just find it works really well for me. And the other thing is a pair of high quality shears. So these are also from Sally's Beauty. They are incredibly sharp, slightly dangerous if you're not careful with your fingers, but they work super well, and they were inexpensive. I believe these were under $20 Canadian. So these are the only two things we'll need, and let's actually jump into it now. So step one is going to be to section off the hair. So at the back of the head, kind of splitting it right down the middle. I'll show you in a sec. It doesn't have to be really clean. Just an equal amount on each side, regardless of where your part is. So you can see I have a side part. I still kind of just like leave the part the way it is, and then starting from the crown of my head, I'll kind of split off my hair into two sections. And then I'm just going to once again brush through each side. And the other thing I want to note really quickly is that you can use this technique regardless of the length of your hair. So your hair might be longer, it might be right where mine is, or it might even be shorter. So I started using this technique, I want to say 2 years ago almost, when my hair was about this long, and it's taken me a while to get it to the length it is because I had a lot of damage and a lot of breakage from bleaching it and dyeing it so much, but slowly but surely it's been growing out to a nice length. But yes, it doesn't matter really how long your hair is. I would say this would get a little tricky if your hair is shorter than the length of your face. So if it's above your chin, this may not work as well. But for any other length, it should be really good. Okay, so I have the hair. You want it to be flat against your chest. So I'm just taking that much, if you can see, and now I'm going to go in and I'm going to really carefully point cut, making sure I don't cut my fingers. And I'm going to lean forward a bit just so that my hair falls into the sink and not onto the floor. reason I'm point cutting as opposed to just like chopping it off in a straight line is because I want it to look light. I want it to flow, I want it to look light and airy, and have a lot of movement. And sometimes if you have a really blunt bottom line of your hair, your top can look super, super flat. So you'll see what I mean at the end. But again, just taking it really, really slow, little bit by little bit. And I'm doing a really, really like small trim, but something I also want to mention is I'm holding it really close to the bottom, close to where I want my final trim line to be. If you want your hair to have a ton of movement, you can hold your hair further up and you can cut deeper when you're point cutting. So you can hold it further up and you can take really big, deep cuts with your scissors. Just again, be careful and still take it really, really slow. So now that I've done that, where I've taken them together and kind of trimmed them with small point cutting, light point cutting, I guess, closer to the ends, now I'm going to separate both sides again, make sure they're brushed flat, like so. I'm going to take them and I am going to do some deeper point cutting because I want a lot of movement in my hair. And I always brush it out periodically just to make sure that I'm not taking too much. Oh, getting it all over my shirt. Okay, so that is looking really good in my opinion. So these are the longest pieces, and these are the pieces that will meet up in the middle at the back of my hair when I flip my hair back, and then it'll create a really nice kind of soft V or U shape, kind of like this, but reversed on the back. So I just really like that look. So the one thing I do want to also mention, you might notice that this side seems to have a lot less hair. That's not because of how I've been cutting it. So I do have a deeper side part, but I also have alopecia, so I won't show you in this video, but I am missing areas of hair on this side, kind of around my ear. So I am missing like a good chunk of hair, and it makes it just a lot thinner on this side, so I kind of try and work with that. That doesn't really alter how I cut my layers as I'm growing it out, but just something to note in case you're wondering why there's so much less hair on this side of my head. That's why. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the length and the movement that I've created or added, I guess, I'm going to start on one side, and I'm going to use I'll use the wide tooth part of the comb, and I'll give everything a quick brush, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from my crown and I'm going to bring that hair to the front. So I'm going to over direct it kind of to the extreme, and that's because now we're going to add in some layers. Okay, so this step will be a little different for everybody depending on the thickness of your hair. If you have thin hair, you can probably more than likely grab all of your hair and over direct it and bring it forward, and it would kind of all be worked into your layers as you're trimming down. For me, I have incredibly thick hair and I can't do that. It just looks very odd. So I kind of take, starting at the crown, I kind of take this top layer of hair and let the rest of this kind of fall back. Now, I'm not starting from scratch. I have been trimming these layers, maintaining these layers for many months. You can do this from scratch. You just have to decide where you want your layers to start. So I like them to start quite high, so I over direct more, and then when I start to point cut on my angle down, the layers will fall, like kind of fade like this, but they'll start about by my nose, kind of like where my bangs end. And that works really well for me. Some of you though, depending on your face shape and the thickness of your hair, you might want them to start lower. So just don't over direct the hair as much. Just maybe hold it out to say here, and then you can start trimming here, and then your layers would be longer and they would fall kind of below your chin, if that makes sense. Okay, so I've gathered that all in my comb, and as I drag the comb through my ends, I'm going to point cut. And I just do a tiny little bit at a time, as you can see, so that I don't make a mistake or go too short. So then I just repeat this until I'm happy, and often I repeat it many, many times because it's better for it to take a little bit longer than for me to be unhappy with the end result. Another way to do it is to come in from the top. So instead of point cutting from the bottom, you can come in from up here and just really, really slowly, as you drag the comb down, kind of move the scissors back and forth and slowly take away some length. Like so. And you can see it creates really, really pretty movement. Obviously, that's helped by the fact that my hair has a wave in it, but again, that's how I normally wear it. And for me specifically, my hair dries naturally kind of wavy, so I find that this type of layering just looks better if I don't have a lot of time in the morning and I have to let my hair air dry. So again, you do have to know and understand your hair pretty well to trim your own hair at home, but I feel like most of us do. So I'm just gonna keep doing this a few more times. I'll speed it up for you so that this doesn't get super boring. Okay, and that is one side finished. So you can already see the difference. This has a lot more volume, it's lighter, it has more movement, and I think that's where I'll leave it for today. And now I'm going to move on to the next side. Okay, so this is what it looks like from the front, and then this is what the rest of my hair looks like all trimmed up. So again, not a super drastic change, it just helps to keep it healthy and looking a little more polished as you're growing out your hair. So I'm gonna hop in the shower, style my hair, maybe with hot rollers, maybe with just my curling wand, and then I will tune back in and show you how it looks. Okay, so I have some texturizing spray at my roots just to kind of give myself a little bit more volume at the top, especially where my alopecia is lurking just under the surface, but other than that, I don't have any other product in my hair. So this is the finished product. This is kind of how I wear my hair every day, and I think the layers just like make it fall really, really nicely, and as the curls fall out and get looser throughout the day, it'll just have some really, really nice movement. Keep in mind, my hair can only have so much movement because it's still from like here down, it's still incredibly processed, very, very dry ends. As I'm growing it out, I'm slowly trimming off those dry ends. I don't want to sacrifice my length quite yet, so I'm just dealing with the dry ends until I can get rid of them at some point once my hair grows out enough. But yeah, this is how it looks. This is kind of how I maintain my layers every 2 months or so.